The 2021 Chevy Silverado LTZ with the 3-liter Duramax diesel. Now, Mark and I have already done an in-depth video on this generation Silverado with the 5.3-liter equipped Trail Boss. And in that video, we talked about everything. So we're gonna spice things up this time around. We're gonna focus primarily on the drivetrain options with this truck, go through some of the engineering and walk you through what the diesel trim levels like to live with. Now, on the interior, let's quickly give you a brief overview. This is the LTZ trim level, which is a more premium trim level than the Trail Boss. It's supposed to give you some of the luxury accoutrements you're hoping for in a $60,000 truck. So what's good? You have great interior electronics. While the screen is much smaller than what's found on the new F-150 and the Ram, Chevy MyLink works well. The gauge cluster is simplistic and easy to read, and the heads-up display in typical GM fashion is actually very, very good. In the LTZ trim level, you get heated and cooled seats. Both functions work well, and this also has a heated steering wheel, also a positive. The Bose audio system, like I talked about in the prior video, is still terrible. This is definitely a prior generation truck when it comes to a lot of the interior refinement points. If you compare this to the new Tahoe or Suburban, this is definitely a step behind. However, Chevy is updating this truck next year or the year after. So you can expect this to come in line with the refinement that you find in, say, a Ram or the new F-150. When it comes to cargo capacity and some of these storage nooks and crannies, they've done an okay job. It's still incredibly practical. The rear seats do fold up. There's a storage bin below the rear seats. The front door pockets are still enormous, and the center armrest is huge. And you also still have the double stacked or dual stacked glove box. However, this does not have the same interior storage capacity of something like the new F-150 or Ram. However, again, this is the most dated feeling American truck, and I'm looking forward to when they update this. So with that, let's head to the shop. So Mark, you're looking at Fort Wayne's finest. This is on the T1X architecture, much like the Suburban and Tahoe. Obviously, this does not have an independent rear suspension. This truck is due for an update probably next year from what I believe. So what you will see is a brand new interior that throws it in line with the other products. But let's talk about the drivetrains. What do you see here?
I see the heartbeat of America, today's Chevrolet.
Don't forget all the JD Power Awards this vehicle wins. That makes it just a class leader.
There is plenty of space over here by the turbo to put a lot of JD Power Awards. I could probably melt them down and make a cacophony of beauty under this engine bay, but there's plenty of room to work.
Yeah, and that's because there are lots of different engine options in the Silverado. However, in this trim level, you really have three. You have the 5.3-liter V8, which has DFM now, and that can be mated to an 8-speed automatic. The 6.2-liter V8, which is a similar engine that's found in like the Corvette and the more, really what it's coming out of is the higher end GMC products and Cadillacs, makes a ton of power. And then you have this 3-liter inline-6 diesel, which is also mated to a 10-speed. That 5.3 can also be mated to a 10-speed in the High Country or Trail Boss, whatever the hell the highest trim level of truck is. But it gives you a lot of flexibility.
There's no 4-cylinder?
There is I believe, a large 4-cylinder in the work truck variant.
Like a 10-liter?
But no, the 5.3 is the bread and butter. It's found in what's most Chevy products. And you've spent time in that in the other Trail Boss and the Silverado. How does this compare?
Under the hood?
Yeah. How does it compare to drive for you? You've driven both.
I think we're going to talk about this in the drive. Why talk about it here? Let's get this thing out on the road, for God's sakes.
All right, Mark. So, Mark, we're in the Chevy Silverado LTZ with the Duramax diesel. I'm going to show you some torques.
Wow.
It's not fast.
It's not supposed to be fast.
No, it's not, but it's got a lot of torques, as we talked about in the shop, 460 foot-pounds. But what this does return is fuel economy. In an enormous building like this is, I'm still getting over 20 miles to the gallon, which is really, really impressive.
So the main thing you're going to get this for is maybe not on-street driving as much, because if you want to just drive a truck on the road like this all day long, you're going to get a V8 offering. It's way better to drive. However, if you're going to tow with this, and what was the towing rating again on this?
It's like 9,000 and change. It's lower than the Ford and the Ram, but what you do get, again, is...
I mean, you're splitting hairs,
Yeah.
though. You're splitting the hairs over that 1,000 pounds. You're still going to tow with this, and you're going to return better fuel economy.
Yeah.
That's primary objective one on this. And in terms of drivability, so we covered the Tahoe, we covered the original Silverado, and I feel like ride quality, people get bent out of shape when you say it's more like a car. Because I've had comments from people saying, well, I want a truck. I want it to ride like a truck. I don't want it to ride like a car. Why do all these reviewers have to say it rides good? Well, this is what people want overall.
And at this price point, it's $60,000.
Yes.
It is a ton of money. So, if you're a family man or woman and you're buying this, this is probably going to be your only vehicle. So it should probably ride well. You're going to spend a lot of time in this thing.
Yeah, when you hit this price point, and it seems like every truck we're getting into is way north of 50,000. Way north of 50,000, and some are like 70 and 80,000 now. I mean, TRX excluded, but I feel like if you're spending that kind of money and you're going to tow with this long haul, you want good ride quality. And I think the Silverado is, so the Ram is the best in terms of ride refinement. This is second, and the F-150 is third. And I know we haven't been in the new F-150 to see if it's kind of found that middle ground, but this is just quiet enough, and it's refined enough where you don't feel the micro jitters of the old suspension, the old leaf spring where you're constantly bouncing around over everything. This has great isolation, and it's surprisingly really quiet in here.
No, it's a really impressive vehicle for what it is, and don't forget they're about to update this. So some of my complaints with the interior not being as impressive as the new F-150 and the Ram will get fixed, and all of the good things about this truck, specifically the drivetrain and the ride quality, will carry over as well.
Yeah, and I would hope so. And to give GM credit, this isn't really bad. This isn't bad when you put it next to the Tundra. The Tundra is like 60 years old. This still feels like you could deal with it. Everything's durable. Yeah. I know you talked about that in the inside space. It doesn't feel like you're in a U-Haul truck or a rental truck.
But it is the furthest behind in the American segment, because you're probably, if we're both going to be honest, you're not going to get someone who's an American truck buyer into a Toyota, or vice versa, particularly at this point.
Probably not. I guess the thing is the diesel offering, because that's what we're talking about. What's the primary reason to get this?
I think around town, the 5.3 is what we drove in the previous Trail Boss Silverado. It has a lot of torque, but when you're just puttering around, like, you're coming from a dead stop, because it doesn't have the available power band that the diesel has, this makes it a far more enjoyable experience. Here, I'll accelerate and show you. So we do a stop. I'm going to put this in sport so you can feel all the NASCAR wins that Chevy has.
They even put a sport mode on that? What does it even do? Does it matter?
Magic. Oh, yeah. You see what I mean? You have all of this available grunt. So if you're just stop and go below 30 miles an hour, it should give you a more enjoyable power band.
Yeah, it's got the power band where you need it on street driving. All that torque is down low, and it feels really smooth and natural. I mean, this doesn't rev out, of course, and the diesels don't, but it feels very progressive and linear without, like, throwing you back in your seat, making it real jittery. The throttle's not jittery. The steering is really natural. You don't have to do one of these like the old trucks. The steering's direct. Everything feels, again, more SUV and car-like, and that's by design, and I think that's what makes the Silverado good. And if you're a truck person, this is the best time in history to be a truck person. There's no truck that is total horse shit. You can make the argument the Tundra is way dated, but even that is not horrible.
No, I mean, trucks are as good as they've ever been. And the gearbox in this thing, so this is the 10-speed that's similar to the one found in the Ford, and I will say this 10-speed is better than the 8-speed in the Ram. Does less gear hunting, you feel no gear shock whatsoever, and you always feel like you're in the correct power.
I feel like they've improved it over time. I think they've gotten the logic right with all the reflashes and the years built into it. So now the 10-speed is more realized from where they kind of projected it or wanted it to be. Now it's seamless. You don't even notice it, and you're not thinking about what gear it's in all the time.
And that's exactly what you want in a truck that is not sporty at all. It's meant to be a more luxury truck that if you were, an owner of a small business, or you're a well-to-do contractor, or you're looking at this as a family vehicle, this is what you want in a truck.
And you get the better fuel economy that is plaguing most trucks of this size. It's great It's actually getting better fuel economy than the two like daily drivers that I have that are not even like, they're four poppers and this gets, so I'm super impressed with that. I hope longevity wise that their new setup with active fuel management, or rather DFM has been improved, and the reliability of this truck is better than it used to be.